Hello, everybody. My name's Rick McCutcheon. I'm a Dynamics 365 MVP, the host of Partner Talks, and I'm here today with this MS Dynamics World Expert Panel brought to you by Provence, building an IT service management strategy to help scale your Microsoft partner and MSP business. And we do have an all-star cast today of thought leaders that are going to help us through this session. So let's go through and tell us who you are and what you do. So let's start with you, Simon.
Thanks, Rick. My name's Simon Martin. I work for an organization by the name of Mint Group. We're largely a very dynamics-focused organization, and we've grown into a number of different service areas to cater for all the Microsoft clouds. And I'm really establishing and developing a very more modern approach to what we'd call managed services, using all cloud native tools, and hence I'm here to talk to all of you about these really modern capabilities.
Okay, thank you, Simon. Over to you, John.
Thanks, Rick. Good day, everyone. My name is John Clark. I'm a cross-solution architect in Microsoft Federal. Microsoft Federal recently moved under Azure Engineering, but as I'm a cross-solution architect, I'll typically work at programmatic levels and work across the various clouds within Microsoft. And because we're in Federal, we're dealing with the U.S. federal government. I've been with Microsoft 11 years, was part of the transition from OpsCon to IT service management, some modern service management, and we'll probably be talking about it a little bit during the webinar. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, John. Over to you, Chris.
Hey, thanks, Rick. I'm Chris Mahanes. I'm the Senior Power Apps Developer for Provence Technologies. Been working with the platform and developing and implementing it since CRM 2011. So my role in Provence is to really ensure what's coming out of the Power Platform, how we can leverage it for our ISV products, and our customers can take advantage of all the new features coming out from our products. And really excited to be here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Greg.
Last but not least, thanks, Rick. It's great to be here. Thanks to you and MS Dynamics World for hosting the session. And so I'm Greg Singleton. I'm VP Sales and Marketing at Provence. And Rick opened up by saying an all-star crew. So the all-stars are Simon, John, and Chris. And Rick and I are here for, I guess, color commentary and help the conversation along. But thanks for joining us. And I'm glad to be here. So thank you.
Okay, Greg, fantastic. So let's kind of kick things off talking about, what we've just been through. So last year, organizations went through some tough times with the pandemic, but this change in their way business forced many organizations to realize they need to do service management right. So why did they wait so long? Why did it take this pandemic to really, get them to start moving in the right direction? And we're going to start with you, Greg.
Yeah, so I'll give a little bit of a higher level perspective here on this question, Rick. I mean, I think the pandemic is an inflection point that caused a lot of change. That's an obvious statement, but I think that the whole sort of IT service management space has been in transition for many, many years. And John's going to talk about this, a little bit when he comments about this concept of modern service management and this, taking IT service management from its traditional, very stoic, stovepipe type of approach to, enforced IT management to more, inclusive, cooperative, the flow of business kind of approach to providing IT services within the organization. And certainly we've seen that happening in the market for a long time, but COVID was the inflection point, like I said, that really, put a lot of pressure on service providers, whether that's inside a corporation or whether that's a managed services type situation, where all of a sudden all your staff's working from home and you got to deal with, well, how do I ensure that they're effective, that they're supported, that they get access to the applications they need to do their job, that the speed of business doesn't get impacted too badly. And that's causing to look at how do we do that more effectively. So, cloud plays a huge role in that. Again, another obvious statement from me. I'll make a few of them in this session today. Looking at platform and the importance of platform and how everything ties together to support a distributed organization It's probably one of the biggest things that's impacted organizations to look inside their business and how do we really ensure not only do we address the needs of the business today, but that we're prepared for another COVID, or are there opportunities for us to innovate beyond how we do things today to be more competitive, reduce our costs, etc. So that's kind of my perspective on things.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Over to you, John.
I see the pandemic as a digital disruption, and I think I agree with Greg. IT service management was in a transition. We actually started this concept of modern service management back in 2016, realizing that traditional ITSM can work in the cloud. The only problem is it limits the cloud's impact and the real value you can have. If you're still doing traditional processes within the cloud environment, they'll certainly work, but you're not going to get the speed, agility, scale, and other things that are a result of moving to the cloud if you don't change. And that's where this movement of modern service management came about. What the pandemic then introduced is this disruption. Things like desk side support were no longer even a thing. There is no desk side anymore. Nobody was going to offices. They were working remotely. And this caused a huge digital disruption to remote work. And when you work in spaces like I do, it makes it even worse because there's typically reasons you can't work from home. And so a lot of accommodations had to be made. It was obviously a big boom for things like Microsoft Teams and other remote working capabilities, but it has introduced a new way of working, a new way employees are going to work. It's also changed the impetus of, clouds continue to grow, clouds continue to function despite the pandemic. In other cases, people weren't able to go to data centers. And so I think it also helped the cloud argument of if something like this happens again, we are, and I think that factors into every business decision that's being made nowadays. Look at manufacturing, supply lines, travel. All industries have been impacted and they're reevaluating, can we depend on imports? Can we depend on things happening remotely? Well, cloud is one of those things that was remote from the beginning, and the idea of leveraging and using that platform has made this digital disruption turn into something that is driving digital transformation because it's forced people to think differently and work differently. And you read many companies are simply, they're not going to go back to the way it was. Even like city governments, I'm aware of the city of Houston curtailed some of their building acquisitions for office space because they're now going to continue to just work remotely because they realize it works. And so that has a huge impact on service management. Everything we've espoused from a modern service management perspective it incorporated the disconnectedness. So it blends really well with the idea of remote work.
Okay, thank you, John. Simon, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I agree with John 100%. I think what we had more applications, more services, with the advent of cloud being introduced into an organization. I think traditional ITSM ran in that siloed approach and lost sight of the scale of those applications. And then when the pandemic came along, we had a lot of things to support that we didn't really know where they were, how to get to them, how to communicate with people, and how to resolve those issues. And that's put a lot of pressure on how do we sustain and support and manage these, even the life cycles of these services, if we can't see them, can't track them, can't integrate with teams that are using them. And I think, that's pushing it into a very more integrated, streamlined sort of capability that is more integrated into the business. We need to know where everybody is at all times. We need to know how to serve them. And we also need to know if we're adding anything anywhere across that realm that is going to require support and need to be looked after. And I don't ever see it going back to a physically based asset inventory of what do we have, and time to catch up with that, because we're going to keep on enhancing services, keep on trying to spread the reach and make people more productive under any kind of circumstance based on what we've learned under COVID. And if we keep on pushing that evolution, we need to track all of that change, support all of that change, and almost do it with the whole business process in tow. And I think businesses are seeing that really quickly, and that's striving for almost better instrumentation of what do we have and how's it behaving and how do we actually maintain that environment.
Okay, great. Chris, would you like to add anything about, the last 14, 18 months we went through?
Yeah, I mean, it was a huge shock to everyone in the workplace, especially with the pandemic. And service management allowed people that may not have had processes in place to accommodate that type of remote work. With us being able to educate our customers about service management and how incident management or request fulfillment can facilitate those types of processes. So people are accountable for certain requests or certain things that are broken. We were able to provide more confidence to those organizations that yes, this is a complete disruption, but with these types of processes and practices, you can easily manage it by following these set of practices within service management.
Okay, thank you. So our next question, we're going to start with John. And this is really interesting because, I see this in a lot of different sort of categories of systems, but I think in service management, it sort of stands out. What are some of the reasons that organizations have failed to succeed or invest in service management to this point? John.
Well, I think it's, and I'm going to use some quotes from various people, and I hope they don't mind me using them. One is when you don't, and we do this individually when we buy things, and corporations and governments do the same. When you don't detect value, you check price. And companies are spending inordinate amounts of money on service management, on best practices, on all of these things, and they are not seeing the value. They're either seeing a ton of control, a ton of, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, but you don't want that to get in the way of speed, agility, scale, and those types of things. And so I sometimes argue that, especially legacy ITSM, now I think ITIL4 is a valiant attempt to align with Agile and DevOps patterns and practices. In organizations that have really evolved, they have changed the nature of service management. And again, speaking of modern service management, because at the core is really this concept of Agile and DevOps. And a lot of organizations, and ask yourself, a lot of organizations, they'll drive Agile through development, but they'll waterfall into production. And that's because they're still following some of those legacy patterns for risk mitigation. And there's actually research that shows change advisory boards don't mitigate risk anymore, or stability of a system anymore, and in fact can sometimes be detrimental. But there's still organizations driving cabs because they don't understand, how do I mitigate risk differently in a cloud environment? Because there's better ways of doing that. Additionally, things like the Power Platform and what we're going to talk about today provides the business with unprecedented speed and capabilities for non-development resources being people. And so I've seen countless stories where there's been solutions built not by IT but by business people because they knew Excel, they knew some of these other products, and with the Power Platform, you don't have to be a full stack developer. You can create these solutions, and they can evolve slowly and naturally to a point where, okay, we need to make this application available to many people, right, and institutionalize it versus it being something I built for myself. This helps, and when you look at things like Service Team, it aligns because it's built within the same environment, and it can align to some of these new patterns and practices that allow individuals and things to happen in what I call modern service management. So I'm not necessarily following some of the old processes. I'm following some of these new processes that are more agile. They create velocity, but they also provide traceability and control that's all automated. And that's really what, when we talk about modern service management, when we talk about the Power Platform, it's a great combination, because those integrations, those capabilities that cloud provides are all available to the solutions you build, and Service Team is right there with it. So I really like what Provence has done with the solution and where it's going, and its alignment to modern service management principles.
Okay, thank you, John. So over to you, Simon. What are some of the reasons organizations have failed to invest and succeed in service management?
I think from my side, it's the things I've seen have involved rigidity of legacy processes, like John said, that we're actually holding up rapid adoption, aligning to agile, moving the business forward at a substantial pace. So as an example, in our organization, we're a Dynamics organization. We love and live inside a Power Platform. We have a number of different competencies across the CRM, ERP stacks, and me with service management, aligned to ITIL 4, wants to put in some control. And obviously, in an organization like that, it needs to be rather precise control that is a streamlined process integrated into the business and doesn't hold up, the way we would transact, the way we would engage. And it sort of aligns to support the business as opposed to almost put the business into a specific structure. So some of the exciting capabilities I see in Service Team is that if we take a framework like ITIL 4 and we align it to our business that requires, rapid agility and the ability to move forward, embrace change, but have some control and traceability, and manageability, and keep sight of all of these facets, then being able to allow them to use their own tools within an inherent Microsoft environment to report, to track, to engage. For example, using Service Team through Microsoft Teams to engage with different people is such an integrated solution. It doesn't require additional third-party integrations and a stretch to try to bring everyone together. And I think that will help us expedite things where some of the other options are still slightly pushed back on by business, because what are you going to do now if I need to update certain services? How long are you going to hold me back? I think is some of the perception that comes with, I'd call more traditional ITSM and the procedures that followed with that.
Okay, thank you, Simon. Chris.
Yeah.
What are some of the reasons that? What are some of the reasons that organizations have failed to succeed at service management?
Sure. Yeah, and I agree a lot with Simon. When it deals with adoption, when it comes to a new methodology, a new application, users want to know, how is it going to make my job easier? And being a part of in the product team development, that's one that we hold dear, is how is the user experience? Is it going to make that user's day easier? All right. Are they going to see an instant result of them following a certain process? And service management is all about process. So I feel like it may be being able to communicate the benefits of adopting something like service management or our application of Service Team. We're trying to provide more speed of service to your customers, a way to automate a lot of those processes. So instead of doing traditional service management of, okay, I want to open a ticket, okay, I need to move it to another stage, we're moving it into more of a modern service management of a customer is asking for something. How can we automate that? So instead of moving from ticket management, I want to look at failures in the automation or improvements in efficiency to those automations to bring better return to the customers and to the users, so they can see the benefits of an ideology of service management or our application of Service Team.
Okay, thank you. Greg, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, so all great comments by our panelists, of course. They're the experts compared to me, but what I will make a comment on, Rick, is that I don't think that organizations fail with IT service management per se, but sometimes the vision or the objective of IT service management gets lost. and what are you really doing? Because IT service management is not about IT, it's about the customer, whether that's an end user or a business or an application owner or somebody. It's about the business. And I think where we see challenges in IT service management with our customers is when there's a misalignment between what the business thinks is important and what the customer thinks is important. And that's something that we try to focus on, and certainly with the platform that we're built on, the Power Platform and Power Apps and so on, it's allowed us to take not only a sort of an IT service kind of view of things, because that's our expertise, but also to incorporate thinking around, well, how do our customers do a better job of servicing the needs of their customers or their end users in the organization. So
okay. Great, thank you. So the next two questions are going to sort of dovetail into each other. What are some of the small things that we can do over the next 30 days to get service management right? And then the next question is going to be, what are some of the bigger things? So let's concentrate on some of the, if I'm managing a service management organization within a corporation, and I'm in bad shape today and I want to start moving forward, how do I start to fix things? So let's talk about some of the small things people can do, and we'll start with you, John.
Thanks. So the first thing I would do is establish what we call OKRs, or objectives and key results. And as an IT organization, you shouldn't do that internally. It should be something that incorporates those you serve and the business you're a part of. When IT organizations call the customers, no other part of the business calls the business customers. You're all the part of the business. And I think having a honest, open opinion on where can we improve, where can we get better, and these are going to be things like velocity, speed, scale, compliance, quality, any of these type of management imperatives that need to get better. And there's been, over my last 11 years doing assessments and working with customers, I mean, it varies, how long people will wait just to get service, or just wait to resume working. And those are typically going to be, hopefully complaints most organizations have solved, but if not, that's a great place to start. But those OKRs should be done in conjunction with your business constituencies and leadership. And then do a fit gap against them. What are the things that can be done in the short term? What can be done in the long term? And oftentimes, really evaluating your processes and where you can automate. If you're doing things over and over and over, automate. There's no sense, making that plan for, because automation's a big step. So it's not something you're going to be able to do in 30 days. But you can certainly start to identify what are the things we can automate and automate safely. And like Chris was saying, put in the instrumentation so that we know automation is working correctly, and when it doesn't, we know what's happened, how to mitigate it, and even your recovery could be automated, and look for those opportunities as well. So I think it's really the next 30 days is identifying where those issues are. What are your primary constraints to achieving those? I recently, a colleague of mine, he has this quote. He says over and over and over, and I love it. Efficiencies beyond your primary constraints are an illusion. He's 100% correct. Find out where those primary constraints are that's keeping you from improving in speeds and whatnot. Finally, I would look to start getting out of flattening the organization, get out of the silos, start integrating with your infrastructure, with your application, your data, all of those teams. Where I see a lot of companies that we're doing agile, we're doing DevOps. Well, but their teams aren't real feature teams. They're not real DevOps teams. They're still all just developers, or they're just database administrators, or they're just operations. Those teams should be diverse. They should be and so looking at those as ways, again, it's going to be tough to do that in 30 days, but I think you can start to plant the seeds that says, eventually we want to evolve our feature teams to be more dynamic and, dare I say, self-forming. Again, one of the agile principles. And that's where I would start with in the next 30 days to just identify your problems, what your constraints are, and your plans to remediate them.
Okay, thank you. So Simon, you're the business coach. You're in there and you're going to coach this person what they can do in the next 30 days to get things right. What are you going to suggest for them?
Sorry about that. So yeah, I don't know how to shut them up. I think from my side, it starts with some, let's maybe call it configuration management, like sort of understanding the environment that you have, what's in that environment, and then move to what is the anticipated value or outcome that the broader business or your customers were expecting or are expecting from those specific services, and then have a look at where those are either meeting those requirements or falling short. I think that gives you a bit of a gap analysis to stabilize service, put some of that information down into a structure, and then focus on maybe lifecycle improvement of the weaker facets that are your constraints that are holding back the business. But with being able to have the visibility of what you have, and then using a solution like Service Team that really brings the experience to different teams across the organization through a very familiar platform that they live in today inside of Teams, inside of Azure DevOps, inside of a number of different services, bring the sort of capability to them in terms of streamlining the experience of supporting those services. And I think if we can do that, that starts and creates a lot of visibility of what our world really looks like, gives the organization a different perspective on priorities, and allows those to be enhanced.
Okay, thank you. Chris, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, sure. And it's more just a build on what John and Simon were saying. It's obviously the quick wins. You have 30 days to turn the tide of the business of what you're using. So those quick wins, if you are able to achieve those quick wins, that just provides confidence in what you're supplying to your organization. And that goes a long way. That sets you up for your long-term goals of what you want to implement for your organization. And we take that approach with Service Team. You look at our product line for our Service Team Essentials. That is really to get you started, I would say, in 30 days, because we really want to provide that visibility of what Simon was saying. All right, we were able to manage these different processes of the business and customers coming in, but it allows us visibility of, okay, what's in our Azure AD? I know this person, but I don't have to swivel chair. We're bringing the Power Platform and bringing that data into a consolidated application, so we don't have those disparate silos. We have that visibility of, okay, this person is in these groups, they have these permissions, this is their domain name, and I'm able to work from one application. That's a quick win right there, because I don't have to go anywhere else. I have that in my hands right there. And then you can add on additional features as you go up our product line from professional to enterprise. So that quick win using Service Team Essentials is a perfect example of how you can go to your long term of your professional and enterprise implementations.
Okay, thank you. Greg, would you like to add anything?
I sure would, Rick. So you can tell that Chris here is a developer. He said, bring you into sales, Chris.
Right.
I think from my perspective and what we've seen with customers and in the market generally, I think 30 days is kind of an opportunity to kind of start with the customer and reflect back on, are you delivering the level of service that your customers need, or your end users, your constituents, that they really need and are asking for. And a lot of those answers are found in data, right? And do you have access to the data that you need to answer the questions you have about, where are our challenges, where are our opportunities for improvement, and where are our opportunities to drive new services and new value for the business, right? And that's what the platform delivers. And you'll hear me say this a lot. It's tattooed on my body, and platform matters, right? And what we're seeing in our market and in our industry is that customers have moved or shifted from a traditional view of ITSM. There's lots of ITSM tools out there, right? Big deal. But platform matters, and customers are making a platform decision as much as, or even before they make an ITSM tool or the tools decision that they're making, because they don't have the time, the money, the resources to worry about all the integration. How do I knit all this stuff together, et cetera? So for me, the answer is start with your customer, understand where your opportunities and challenges are, but make sure you have access to the data you need to make those, understandings and decisions from that.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to go back to you, Greg, just to start this. So now you're the CTO of an organization and you've got to drive service management forward. So what are some of the longer term strategies that you would like to pull together and start to think about service management for the future?
Yeah, it's a great question, Rick. And no one will ever accuse me of being a CTO, but from my perspective, again, it comes down to the importance of platform. There are a lot of ITSM tools out there, as I said. There's a lot of legacy ITSM tools out there doing the same old thing over and over and over again, right? Incident, service request, problem, change. But there's very few that are looking at it from a platform perspective, and our customers are demanding that platform capability, and there's very few options in the market, but Microsoft is by far the best. It has the best platform. It's got great scalability, flexibility, integration capability, et cetera, across the entire platform, and that's why we chose to build out our products, Service Team, and before that, Provence ITSM on Dynamics, on the Microsoft platforms, because we can inherit all that capability around flexibility, security, integration, and so on, but bring it in the context of a service management mandate. And so for us, getting it right is about thinking hard about the platform that you're using. And for our target customer is Microsoft centric already. They're Microsoft partners, they're ISVs, they're MSPs, they're organizations that John works with that have significant investments in Microsoft technologies within their business. And layering on top of that, we just can pull it all together. Okay, and that's really from our perspective what we see as an opportunity for many organizations.
Okay, John, over to you. Looking at the future, getting it right. What do you suggest for organizations?
Well, I'd start, and again, this links to what I said for the 30-day short term, is take those OKRs and convert those into metrics that matter. And what I mean by metrics that matter, I think a lot of legacy approaches was very internally focused. We can drive our own internal efficiency at the expense of the customer, expense of the business. And I think those need to change. I'm a big believer in, if you've heard the term experience level agreements and user experience versus user interface. What's the experience of the organization and how can that be improved? So establishing those types of metrics all across the value chain, not just in support and operations, but in development and infrastructure, data, all of those things, driving those new metrics and then making the changes, implementing the automation that supports that, so that I have traceability and I can know we're improving. Because even if you're in a bad situation today and you take some of the suggestions that Simon, Chris, and I have made for 30 days, you start implementing those improvements, even the improvements will be a positive. You may not reach your goals in the long term, but the people, the organizations, the business, the governments that you serve, they'll see that as a positive and they'll see that as an improvement. And I think that'll drive a much, much better experience. The fact that Service Team is built in the Power Platform, I think really helps with this concept, because it's going to be among the other workloads as customers start to deploy other solutions, other patterns, other processes within the Power Platform. So that too can also add to that experience of, I don't have to go to a completely different system. I can work right in the tools I'm used to, Power Platform, Teams, Office, those types of things. So that's what I would really, let the metrics, let the measures, the meaningful measures drive your future.
Okay, thank you. Simon, would you like to add anything about, moving forward in the future of getting service management right?
Sorry about this. This one will do that every time.
Got some people that want to add some things there.
Yeah, no, it is. For me, a lot of it is finding, like Greg said, the right platform. I think visibility is in data. And what you're able to do if you've got the right platform and you start in the right place is the ability to surface that data and visibility can actually create you an additional budget of capacity to focus on the things that are causing pain. And I think the ability to use a platform like Service Team with Power BI, specifically in my organization, means that I've got a bit of people or a number of people that generate specific reports and can help us actually measure the actual impact and transaction, and as we gather that data and actually zone into it. But in a previous experience of my life, we had different silos of these systems. So the reconciliation between what was there and how we were going to measure it could eat and literally, I could say, consume a human being for 40 hours. Between correlation of events, systems, different things, different thresholds to get it to somebody to pull a report. And when you look at the right platform and an integrated approach, that data self-surfaces, if I could maybe use that terminology, and allows you to almost reutilize those hours you would have used on a reconciliation and a planning discussion to actually affect some meaningful change and enhance certain experiences. So yeah, that's
Okay, thank you. Chris, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, sure. So, we had talked about, the 30-day quick win. With Service Team, with being built on the Power Platform, we supply our customers and we put a lot of thought in our research and development teams. What is the data model to answer those long-term questions? John said earlier, one of the longer terms is automation, and he's exactly right. Things to automate can take time. You have to have certain controls, approvals potentially, and certain tasks that need to be done and have that iteration. But to be able to measure, okay, what is our long-standing or our mean time to fulfill certain requests? With being on the Power Platform, we can supply a data model very easily to do that correlation of, okay, it took this user so much time based on their time entries on this particular request. How can we automate that based on the reports that Power BI is giving for our analytics layer? And how can we introduce maybe a Power Automate? It brings to mind a long-term goal for one of the customers I worked with when I was in services. They wanted to take away email communication because emails get buried, we get inundated, and they wanted to transition into Microsoft Teams. And they saw an actual greater, a lesser response time using Teams as the communication standpoint. And they were simply able to create a Power Automate based on a long-term goal. They shut down email and started sending customer communications through Microsoft Teams. And they're able to have that conversation very natively rather than trying to look through an email. So being able to see what type of analytics you're getting allows you to say, okay, how are we going to prioritize all these long-term goals that we want to achieve? And we're here to help you with that.
Okay, thanks, Chris. So that sort of leads into question 6. Why does Power Platform matter so much now, and how does Power Apps and Power Platform play a role in the future? Simon, let's start with you.
In my organization, I think, serving our customers as well as serving our own internal requirements, Power Platforms become a critical component that enables so much automation, so many new applications, new interfaces with our people across the business. Something that we're really good at is almost keeping everybody up to speed across our entire organization. And a lot of that is through incentive reward applications and gratitude applications that are all built in Power Platform and surfaced in Microsoft Teams. So even thanking a colleague for the good things you're doing are nestled inside of Microsoft Teams. And we're using this one consistent platform to really, create a different experience across the board. Now, when you look at extending that into service management, it becomes something that's not a stretch for somebody to go and log a ticket or to create a service request or to attain any support. It's almost a relationship that is underpinned in a communication layer that everybody's familiar with. And then if you look at the extensibility of that into these Microsoft clouds and the amount of information we can get out of those to almost raise situations or incidents, and then use automation to reflect certain alert conditions or remediation of that in one consistent sort of platform with the visibility of how we actually did and whether that was working. And I think that approach, if you think about how quickly the cloud allows organizations to enable new services, enhance those services, visibility into the health of those, knowing whether it's a problem on the service or whether it's an intended condition, can actually, again, buy a lot of bandwidth for the support teams to not be applying it to the wrong troubleshooting, to the wrong environments. And as we cohesively use more and more of these services, we're surfacing more and more capability in maybe the front end of what individuals are living in. So we're not pulling everybody out of where they actually are at the moment to get them to require some assistance.
Okay, thank you, Simon. John, would you like to add anything about Power Platform?
Sure. And I guess I'll, at the risk of being critical at some of our commercials that you see on television, I'm going to be critical. But there's one, there's sometimes there's commercials you don't know what we're selling, but there's sometimes that they really, really hit the target. There was several years ago, there was a commercial with the rapper and artist known as Common. And he was just speaking, and he was saying, today you have more power at the end of your fingertips than everybody before you. And I look at this diagram here, and I go, yeah, and we've democratized it. We've taken this power of the cloud, and other than the pro div extensibility, where you need somebody like Chris to extend, a lot of this does not require a developer. I worked in many of these technologies, and I'm not a heavy-duty developer. One of my sons is, I don't have to have that skill to take advantage and benefit from a lot of the technology, most of the technology that you see on this screen. I've built integrations with not only our solutions. I recently built an integration between Azure Dynamics and Salesforce, which some would say, oh, hey, that's the competition. Well, our customers may use both, and we need to be able to integrate to both. And I was able to build an integration, and I'm not a developer. So I think the power of the platform, extends beyond just Power Apps and Power Automate. I think it's the entire idea of Microsoft wanting to democratize this capability. So it's not just as our former CEO used to say, developers, developers, developers. It's not just about developers anymore. It's about more people to do more things. And that really goes with our vision.
Okay, thank you, John. Greg, would you like to add anything about the Power Platform?
Yeah, I mean, John's bang on. The platform is a kind of democratizing capability for not only customers, but for independent software vendors like Provence. And I want Chris to talk about this a little bit about, why Power Apps, the Power Platform has been, so productive for us in terms of developing our own applications. But at the end of the day, looking at the customer, for me, this is all about the fact that I have multiple workloads or business applications running across my business that are all on the same platform, and the data is in the Dataverse. Okay, I have a single point of collection of data, of aggregation of data, consolidation of data, where not only is it better from a management perspective, but more importantly from a reporting perspective, from a driving value, real value and insights from that data. I can get that easy using Power BI. I don't have to build a data warehouse. I don't have to worry about SQL reporting services or anything like that. Right? I can go in, I can query the data, and I can start to make reports and see that data, not just ITSM data, but other data that may be relevant. And because we're doing ITSM, well, we're always combined with customer and account data and contact data, and what services and entitlements do customers have, and what contracts and agreements do they have with us. All that data comes together and can be reported on, through a single lens, if you will. That to me is probably one of the most significant advantages that the platform brings to our customers.
Okay, Greg, and over to you, Chris, and maybe you can talk a little bit about Dataverse and what it is and how it actually, moves the data or is the common data model across all these Microsoft apps.
Absolutely. And thank you, everybody. Like when I think of the Dataverse and where us developers started and where we are now, quick and easy, it's made our jobs easier. From a standpoint of if we get a requirement, we may not be the ones that have to develop it. The business owners that know this process in and out now have the capability to build these lines of business apps, and they can deploy that and be able to share that across, the organization. From a product standpoint, some people may think, does that scare you being a developer because there's not a need per se up front to have a developer? And no, it doesn't. It makes me excited. As a developer, I have work items I have to meet and agile deadlines I have to meet. This allows us to move faster for our customers, for our organization, and it makes me super excited. Where Greg can just take a Power App and connect to the counts, contacts, and opportunity tables and build something that he needs from a data entry point and have a flow to send approvals for a deal he's about to close, but he may need discount. That's a simple example that you can use. No dev requirement. But you may have come a scenario where in the Dataverse we have this other system that's outside of the Microsoft purview. Say I want to bring in some SolarWinds events data. That's where the pro dev can come in and say, all right, I want to build you a trigger and actions for when something occurs in SolarWinds. I want to push that into the Dataverse, and then you can consume that. So as a dev, I'm giving you capabilities to interact with things that may not be out of the box with building a custom connector in Power Automate. So it makes me super excited, and it really shows the return of investment of dive into the Power Platform, and you will instantly see that return of investment because of the speed and the level of quality. That's a huge thing, the quality that you can provide your organization of building things on the Power Platform.
Okay, thank you very much. So over to you, Greg. I want to thank the panel today for their participation, and we're going to let you close things off by talking about Provence and how Provence can help your customers, get service management right.
Thanks, Rick. And first of all, thanks to Simon, John, and to Chris, and to you, of course, Rick, for joining us today and for the insightful comments and helping to add to the conversation, right? So I don't want to be too salesy or marketing-ish here, although it's, I'm born in the wool here, and but as you know, I'm Canadian like you are, Rick, and I was born with hockey equipment on, and and as a good Canadian, coaches always says, sometimes you just have to pull it all back to the basics, right? Don't forget the basics, right? And I think that for what we're doing with a lot of our customers now who are looking at transitioning IT service management in the cloud and around the services that they offer and looking for opportunities, how they grow their business, how they become more relevant to their customers and their constituents. We're getting back to a lot of basics here. So, and for me, it's all about customer service and the level of and degree of quality of service that you can drive with your customers now, given the types of technologies that we're able to leverage. So I believe it, 100%. The platform matters a ton. It's probably the most important decision a lot of our customers make, given that most of our customers are Microsoft centric. Obviously, Power Platform is playing a big role, and I think we're well positioned to deliver some unique capabilities with our service team family of products. And I encourage people to check us out on our website. We've got other webcasts that have been recorded that are available to them. We've got test drives, we've got demos, free trials, all that sort of stuff that people can experience it. But just reach out and have a conversation with us. That's the starting point. And if we can start there, and maybe there's a fit, maybe there's not, but we'd love to talk to you anyway, and go from there.
Okay, thank you very much, Greg, and thanks to our panel. We'll be talking to you soon about getting service management right. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.